I was very convinced that sitting at home is not my cup of tea.
Yeah. Did that thought cross your mind while you were away for that 1 year after your second daughter was born that maybe I could get used to just being at home?
See, I was very comfortable, but at the same time, it was making me feel frustrated because the whole idea of me staying at home was that I thought in my mind that I will be able to do a lot with my daughters. So, and I saw that like not happening. So, this whole dream that I had built around staying at home was, it just shattered.
Hello, listeners. My name is Mridvika, and this is Just an Ordinary Mom podcast. I really am just an ordinary mom to twin boys with a high-speed career, and this podcast is to tell the stories of ordinary moms doing extraordinary things. This episode is special since I have my sister-in-law Neha Mathur appear as a guest on the podcast today. I've had the privilege to see her grow as a mother and as a professional over the last 12 years. She has two beautiful daughters aged 10 and 7, and she's held a great corporate career of over 16 years across ICICI Bank, ILNFS Infrastructure, KPMG, and now Deloitte. She graduated from Lady Shri Ram College, Delhi with economics honors degree and holds an MBA in finance. In the episode today, she'll candidly share how her mother's resolve to write her life's book changed the life trajectory for her and her brother. Neha's story is a testament that strong mothers stand on the shoulders of strong mothers and mother-like influences. She also talks about how grass is always greener on the other side and how she was almost on the verge of quitting her job after her second daughter was born. She took an extended maternity break for a year thinking she would be able to give quality time to her daughters, but the lack of adult conversations compounded by how flustered she felt with the lack of financial independence were reasons enough for her to snap out of the fleeting thought, and she joined a consulting firm in an even more challenging role of sales and business development. Welcome, Neha. Thank you so much for making the time. It's been an honor to have you here. And I know you because we're family, but it would be really nice to sort of hear you speak a little bit about what were growing up times for you like, especially as a kid of 90s. Where are you from and what was like early childhood for you like?
Well, thank you so much, Mridvika. And I think it feels very different when we are talking like this because this is very different in terms of how we are talking. But talking a bit about myself, so I am from Rajasthan and we were raised in Jaipur. I lost my dad pretty early, and that's when my mother, she took our responsibility and she started her job in a school. And I think, one thing which is very important part of my childhood is how our mother, she single-handedly raised us and gave us the same opportunities what any other kid would get. So be it going to one of the best schools, doing all the things which, any normal person would get, and also having that right to dream to go and do big for ourselves. Like when I was going to Delhi University, there were people who were like literally they used to come and tell my mom to reconsider the decision. But I think it is here that she decided to take that risk, and I think both my mom and my brother, they were standing by my side and they just allowed me to do what I wanted to. So
Yeah.
I think our childhood was very different, but at the same time, I think we got all the opportunities despite of not having a father figure.
Yeah. You grew up in a time, Neha, when like working mothers was not a norm, right? Like the working mothers were far and few, especially in the city and the state that you say you come from. How did your mother have to, defy all odds and sort of like, find a job for herself? What is it that she actually had to go through?
So she literally started from scratch. I think the way they were brought up, she never dreamt of working.
Yeah.
They picked up a subject or they did their graduation or postgrad, just, depending on what others are doing. So this was, I think, never something that was
a life plan for her.
Yeah, a plan for her.
Yeah.
So she literally had to start everything from scratch. And I think she was blessed with a good social support system as well at that time.
Family
in form
and
of
friends.
her family supporting her.
Yeah.
She built an amazing support system in terms of her friends who were there, helped her stay positive. So, but yeah, I mean, she literally had to start from very small, very basic.
Yeah.
But she was like, she spent a lot of time and she dedicated herself to the school as well where she was working. And I think at the same time she was a very dedicated mom because it is not just being a super mom. It is like, till 8 to 2, you're doing something, and then 2 o'clock, you have another set of responsibilities. So
Yeah.
your days used to start at 5 o'clock and then end at 10 o'clock. And it was, I don't know how did she manage. Had I been in her place, I would have given up long time back.
Yeah, I've heard stories of that as well. And so she had a full day at school and then tuitions in the evening. What is one value that strikes you about your own mom that you've sort of imbibed as a mother now yourself?
I think it's hard work. I mean, there is one thing that both me and my brother have learned from her is not to shy away from hard work. So, and that is something that I want to imbibe in my kids. But unfortunately, they are living in times where they don't understand what, hard work is. Like what we have gone through, we have realized the importance and we have actually seen results out of that. But that is something that, I'm very, very particular, and I want both my daughters to have that quality in them.
Yeah. So growing up in that environment where you had to strive a little harder for getting the same things that maybe your peers had served at their platters, how did that journey define your own decision of finding a life partner that would complement you or supplement you in things that you want in your own life?
See, I'll tell you one thing. I don't know how she managed, and I keep telling my mom also that there is one very important parenting decision which she did very effortlessly with both me and my brother. We were surrounded by rich kids, okay? But we were never bothered. I mean, it never ever gave us that feeling that, fine, this person has more and we have very limited resources. In fact, most of the friends used to come and spend time in my house.
Yeah.
So somehow she just managed to, I don't know, not have that inferiority complex in both of us. And when I met Saurabh, when this entire matchmaking thing happened, I think I just had one very important criteria. I don't care how rich the family is. I don't care. When I met Saurabh, I didn't even ask that how much is he earning. So for me,
yours was an arranged marriage, and it was unusual for the times, but
exactly, we met for half an hour and we were engaged. So
it must have been pretty difficult to then just say yes to someone that you don't obviously know for several years. And so, what were your checklist criteria, just mentally?
I had one very, very important criteria when they were searching for a match, which is good education. All I need to know at that time was that, where is the person done the graduation or postgrad from. I met his parents a week before and I got very positive vibes. That was my first tick in the box.
Yeah.
And when I met Saurabh, there were no negative vibes. And that is what, I was ready to take that plunge. And I think, I created enough of drama. You should ask your husband about it. And I'm sure you were part of that journey too.
Yeah.
So, but I think, education and basic positive vibes from the family was one thing that I was looking for.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah. And coming to how involved has Saurabh been in your professional journey and your career decisions, how much do you guys discuss about work at home?
Okay, that is a very difficult question to answer because unfortunately we are in the same firm and we do cross paths now. So that is something that we cannot avoid now. But, when I was in ILNFS and he was in KPMG, at that time, we were very particular about not bringing our work home. So that is something, because when we used to come back home, we just wanted to forget about work and unwind. So that is something that we used to, and in fact, even now when I was in KPMG and he was in Deloitte, so we used to follow that quite, strictly. But now, unfortunately, we are in the same team, we are working together. So these things are difficult to avoid, and also work from home as a model is something that, because you need somebody to share your entire, work journey. Yeah. So that is something, but unavoidable now. But going forward, definitely we would like to, keep those things separate.
Yeah. You've had an illustrious career journey. You've been working for almost 17, 18 years now, and you've pivoted from, being in a bank to an infrastructure company to now doing business development in consulting firm. Just walk me through how this journey even began. Like when you went to college in Delhi University, did you know 20 years down, this is what your career would look like? How did you make each of these decisions?
Absolutely not. So this was definitely not planned. So, when I came to Bombay and when I was searching for a job, I was very clear that I wanted to do something related to, project finance or finance. And that is when, ILNFS came my way. And I really liked, what they were doing. And it was a, small team. And I think they were good 8 years when I learned all the aspects of, project development and infrastructure as a sector. But the only thing, that time, when I had my personal responsibilities as well. So it made me actually think of an alternate career because that was the time when I was not ready to commit 12 to 13 hours plus a lot of travel around. So I was not ready to commit to that. I want to spend more time with my daughters. And I'll be very honest, every time I went on maternity leave, I cleaned my desk with a very firm idea of not returning to work. So that is the way I packed every time. And unfortunately, I was back right after 5 months. And it was, I think, the most difficult time for me because that was difficult to leave my 5-month-old daughter home.
Yeah.
Unbearable.
And back in the day when you had your first daughter, the maternity leave was just 3 months, right?
Both times they were just 3 months.
Oh, so you missed out on the 6-month maternity
As
leave.
somebody told me, I would have waited for 1 year, but
yeah. So yeah, I do remember, going back when you went back after, your first maternity break, but the second maternity break, you consciously decide to extend it by, accumulating a lot of them together. How did that 1 year feel, in terms of just not having adult conversations to begin with and just like being consumed with 2 toddlers around you?
So I'll be very honest with you, that time was very critical for me because see, I always used to think that when you're around with your kids, there are a lot of things that you can do. I think that second maternity break actually taught me that it is quality which is more important than quantity. So many a times I think I used to feel that Arna is around but I'm not spending time with her.
Yeah.
So that is when I was very, firm about it that even if I spend 1 to 2 hours with her, but if it is quality, it makes much more sense as compared to being just around her.
Yeah.
So that's when I was even more convinced to, search for a job which gives me some flexibility in terms of time, but at the same time I was very convinced that sitting at home is not my cup of tea.
Yeah, but did that thought cross your mind while you were away for that 1 year after your second daughter was born that maybe I could get used to just being at home?
See, I was very comfortable, but at the same time, it was making me feel frustrated because the whole idea of me staying at home was that I thought in my mind that I will be able to do a lot with my daughters. So, and I saw that like not happening. So this whole dream that I had built around staying at home was it just shattered.
Yeah.
And I think another, thing that I would like, my mom was the most uncomfortable when I was on my second maternity.
Yeah, what would she say to you?
So she was always this, she had this fear that I should not sit at home because see, she comes with a different, fears like what happened to her. So she, I think, with you as well, like she's one person who always encourages everyone to just go to work and not sit at home because she has that fear that, something like what happened to her, if it happens to you, that shouldn't happen and you shouldn't be in a position where you have to build your career from scratch.
Yeah.
So I think she was one of the motivating factors for me to get back to work. Second was, of course, Saurabh. Like he was tired of me sitting at home and just not having proper conversations with
intellectual conversations.
Yes. And third, I think the whole idea of the the idea that I had what I would like to do sitting at home was not really happening. So I think there was no point then.
Yeah, so I think the grass is just greener on both sides, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So after you did decide to go back, you did move jobs from ILNFS to move into consulting. Did the 1 year nurturing a child sort of come up in your conversations with employers, or was that, an hindrance in getting back to interviews and job?
No, not really, because, I was on a maternity break. So, when I was joining back, that was not really a problem. And see, I think that's the advantages of, when you join a multinational, because they are quite open to, such cases, and they are, that way they are flexible. So when you're working with an Indian firm, you have to clock in, you have to reach some office by 9 o'clock. You have to sit there till 7 o'clock. That's not the case. So it's more of, result oriented and output driven things. So that is something that was not issue for them.
Yeah. So now that you're raising 2 daughters, how do you role model for them? Do you and your husband, share 50-50 load in terms of like physical caregiving and mentally and emotionally being present for them? Or you think you are brave enough to be vulnerable and say that, it's still you being the primary caregiver and there are days when you do a little bit more of the caregiving?
So I wish it was a 50-50, but it is not. But that's also, I think, a conscious decision that both of us have taken. And so, I am responsible for, whatever is happening in their school activities, or, sending them to school, helping them with their homework and everything. I take that responsibility. But one thing that, both of us have very consciously done that is whenever there is a messaging that needs to be done, okay, and through directly or indirectly. So it's always Saurabh who manages that, because, when they were young, he used to have these bedtime stories with the girls, and they had their own fictitious characters. So whenever we had to do any sort of messaging, we used to do it through that. So consciously we have taken that, for all these day-to-day activities, I will be around, but he will be there. But it's very thought about, as in, when required, he will go and talk to the girls also. And especially now that Arna is growing up and she is in her tweens, so I am after her life all the time. So it is sometimes when you have to do that strict messaging, I have to use him as a voice.
Got it. And over the years, we all go through changes, as a woman, as a mother, as a caregiver and whatnot. What is that one change that you've seen yourself very, very consciously through the years, go through, especially after you became a mother?
So see, I think, after I became a mother, so, especially when you are a new mother, your life just revolves around the kids, right? And so I think for first 6-7 years, and even now for that matters, my thought process, my day, even if I'm going to work, everything is, okay, what are the classes that they have? I make sure that the helper knows their routine or whatever. So my life revolves around the kids. But now, I'm gradually trying to move away from
The
that
day-to-day.
thing, because I think it is required for them also to understand that we all have different things to do. So, I make that conscious effort, and I want to be a role model to them also, to understand that when they grow big, they don't need to make sacrifices or anything, have independent decisions and work, not because, because they should be independent.
Yeah.
So that is one thing that I want them to grow and understand also. And for them to understand, I am trying to be the
role
one.
model it to them. And we all go through this, but what are the top 2 or 3 guilts that you've faced as a mother? Do you often think of a sick child at home when you're at work, or do you sometimes in your head rebuke yourself for going out with friends for a dinner or something like that? What are the guilts that overcome you as a mother sometimes?
So I'll tell you, when I was with Island FS, there were very limited number of leaves that we used to have. So I remember when Arna was born, and then when I went back to work, I did not take a single leave because I had fever, because I used to save all the leaves for her. Because once, your child is sick, it's very difficult for you to stay away from them. So I used to literally save all the leaves for her. So I think, one guilt, because of the childhood that I had, I think I overindulge. And that is something that, I really want to control and not let them have so many, options, because, and it comes very naturally to me, because we have, grown up with very limited means. So it just comes very naturally, when, okay, fine, they should not have that, what we had. But I mean, that is one concern that I have, and I feel very guilty about it, and I don't want to raise them like that, but it's subconsciously, it just comes in my mind.
Yeah. And I know both your kids have very different personalities, but what is the, legacy that you want to leave for your girls? What is it that you want them to know of, how you fondly remember your mom's story, which obviously came from a place of hardship, but what is that one legacy you want your girls to remember you for?
See, I think I want them to remember me as an individual, okay? So who through office achieved professionally as well, gave them the time and guidance when required. So I just want to play a very balanced role for them, and that's what, I want to be around when they need me, and also be away when it's critical. And I just want them to have that independence, and that, as in, I don't want them to grow in that entire, social. So I think, one thing that I want them to learn, and which I also try to do, is whatever you do it with full,
interest.
Yeah, full interest. So be it if I'm working, then I will not let them disturb me. Or even if I'm cooking, then, I want them to, I give my 100% to that. Or if I'm with them, then I have dedicated time for them. So whatever you do, you just do it with that 100% honesty. And that's what I want them to learn and imbibe.
Yeah. If you had to reflect back and give advice to your 21-year-old self, do you know what you'd say to the younger Neha?
I would just say, I think ease in a bit and explore more, learn more, and enjoy more. Because when the way I was brought up, like, I always formed a very constrained environment around myself because see, I have to study, I have to achieve these. So I think I couldn't enjoy as much, not because of financial constraints, but it is more around the mental constraints that I had.
Yeah.
So I think I'll just probably try to ease in a bit.
Got it. Neha, you've achieved so much. Like, you have a career that many would envy. What is that one piece of advice that you would give to another woman who wants to have a career while feeling like she's a reasonably successful mother if she chooses to be one?
So I think, one advice will be initial years will be very difficult. You literally curse yourself when you go to office. You'll cry, okay? But I think just don't give up. Stay put. And in 3-4 years, when you look back, you'll say that fine, those were the difficult times, but you sailed through. And I think once your kids are 5 to 6 years old, it's all smooth. So
yeah. If you were to go back and do one thing differently about your own motherhood journey, what would it be?
About my own motherhood journey, I think, initially I was trying to be a very helicopter parent with Arna. So as she's growing big, I am trying to have that hands off with her also. So that is something that I wish I could have done that right from the beginning. But because she being the first child in the family, and obviously I paid more attention to each and everything that she did. Not so much with Nysa. Nysa has just literally, I think, grown up on her own. But I wish I could have the same kind of temperament and attitude while I was bringing up Arna also. But I know it's difficult because being the first time mother, it is very difficult to have that kind of attitude. But yeah, I wish I could have been same to both.
Thank you so much, Neha, for making the time and for coming and speaking to me about your life story and about your journey as a mother. And that, friends, was the episode of Just an Ordinary Mom podcast. Thank you so much, Neha Mathur, for taking the time to be on the show. If you are an ordinary mom or know someone who could benefit from listening to this podcast, do share it with them. This podcast was recorded at Manic Pod Studios in Chembur, Mumbai. Our sound engineer is Shrey Tiwari and our producer is Vedant Nayak. Thanks for listening.